Hello everyone, and welcome to another XCOM 2 challenge run. We've got a fun one today. We're gonna try and beat XCOM 2 War of the Chosen using only the Chosen in combat. Yeah, as in the Assassin, the Hunter, and the Warlock. There's a mod on the Nexus that allows you to play as the three Chosen. I'll leave a link to it in the description, and shout out to the mod author, Coyotykins, who made this video possible. Now, the author clearly states the mod is in an alpha stage, so it won't work perfectly, but from my experience, it's definitely playable. And remember, I do live stream most of my runs in full on my Twitch channel, and you can see the archived streams on my second YouTube channel. Links to both of those are in the description below. And now for the rules. I'm playing on Veteran difficulty. We're playing on Honest Man, so we only reload in the events of misclicks and glitches, and we can only use the Chosen in combat. Now, there is a caveat to that last rule. See, the way the mod works, we need the Proving Grounds up and running before we can obtain our three Chosen. So until then, I'm just going to be using rookies in combat. Once we have the Chosen available, we'll only use them going forward. But they're actually counted as robotic enemies, so they can't do certain things like carry bodies and use the Skulljack, so we'll have to be relying on rookies for those types of events. And as always, if we do bring a rookie along with our Chosen, they're not allowed to fight or draw fire. They're purely there to complete objectives that the Chosen can't do themselves. And for this task of assisting our three noble Chosen, I've chosen a man of pure legend. I present to you Cannon Fodder. And yes, there is a reason he's the third. His two predecessors didn't make it, as you'd probably expect given the name. And for the full Cannon Fodder backstory, check out my XCOM Enemy Within Supercut video. I choose to start with the Skirmishers, as their ability to increase construction speed will give us access to the Proving Ground as quickly as possible. That in turn is going to give us access to our Chosen as quickly as possible. And after the first three missions, it's done. The Proving Ground is ready. Let's go purchase our Chosen. Yeah, they're definitely within our price range, so that's good. And I'll explain what's going on here. My understanding is that the goal of the mod was that once you defeat one of the Chosen in their stronghold, they would then join you as a soldier. The mod author made them purchasable in the Proving Ground just so people could play around with them to see how they work. And we are going to play around with them, for the rest of the campaign in fact. And they look pretty cool, right? I think they do. Although I'm not sure why the Hunter has a random gremlin with him. Twitch chat suggested it serves as his spotter, which is honestly a pretty good theory. But I think I've got a better one. I think Shen just has a crush on this guy and gave it to him as a gift. Yeah, that's definitely the more likely scenario. And having these units available so cheaply works really well for us. If one of them falls during a mission, we can easily purchase another one straight away. And I think this suits the challenge quite well. I mean, when we battle the Chosen, they always come back, even when we defeat them, so it makes sense we can easily bring them back ourselves. Now, the mod will let us purchase as many as we want, but I'm only going to be using one of each Chosen at any given time, so we can only build a replacement once the previous one is gone. And something else really cool, these guys actually level up like regular soldiers. The abilities they learn are similar to what the enemy Chosen have, but they're not exactly the same. So if we do lose one of our Chosen and we have to rebuild them, they'll lose all their obtained experience and they'll be back at squatty rank. So it's in our best interest to keep these three soldiers safe. They are very powerful, yes, but there's also only three of them, so we do need to be careful. Alright, I think I've covered everything important. I'm sure I've forgotten stuff, but we'll address that as it comes up. So let's finally see these guys in action, and not a moment too soon, as we've got the Retaliation mission next. It's going to be Chosen vs Chosen in the grudge match of the century. The Warlock starts with some insane abilities. He has Stasis, Soulfire, Mind Control, and an AoE attack called Psionic Release. Now, it's not that great. You do have to be standing right next to the enemies you want to use it on, and the Warlock is kind of slow compared to the other two chosen, so I don't get the opportunity to use this ability that much. Now, the Assassin has 8 charges of Vanishing Wind, which puts her back into concealment. And as if that wasn't crazy enough, the cooldown for this ability is 1 turn. So you could put her back into concealment 8 turns in a row if you wanted to. That's crazy. She also has Harbor Wave, and that does big damage, and she can move after landing an attack with the katana. It's basically a better version of Implacable, as she doesn't have to finish off the enemy in order for it to trigger. The Hunter has his grappling hook, which also has a 1 turn cooldown, so we can just grapple all over the place. And he has an ability called Piercing Shot, which basically lets him shoot through walls and other obstacles. So that's the basic rundown of their skills at this point. I won't say too much, just have a look at them in action for yourself.
Go! Let me guide your hand. As one dies, another is already born to take his place. Your time is running out. That's just sad. I've got a few toys of my own. I had hoped for a spirited outing. Watch for the shadows. This'll calm you down.
Yeah, they're pretty cool, right? They even have voice dialogue, I love that. And you'll notice their weapons seem to be doing beam levels of damage right from the get-go. I'm not complaining, it's awesome. And I should also mention here that Cannon Fodder was able to use the Skulljack on a captain, so we have started advancing the story. At Corporal rank, the Warlock can either learn Healing Touch, which allows him to heal other soldiers, or Regeneration, which heals himself. We go with Healing Touch, I think it'll give me more options. The Assassin can learn either Shred or Blade Master. Both are really great abilities, but our Chosen can't use items. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. I told you I'd forget something. And no grenades means our shredding abilities are going to be quite limited, so I take Shred on the Assassin. I think it'll be more useful. The Hunter can either have a mobility boost or rapid fire. I choose rapid fire as it should be really helpful for late game enemies with large health pools. And before long we have some more level ups. At Sergeant rank, the Warlock can choose between Fortress and Covering Fire. Neither are that great, but I figure Fortress will be better. On the Assassin, we take Shadow Step over the mobility boost, and we're still waiting on the next promotion for the Hunter. So we head out to the Black Site mission, and a couple of interesting things happen here. I deliberately take damage with the Assassin so we can try out the Warlock's healing ability. And yes, this is actually the first time we've taken a hit in this campaign. We've even been flanked a few times, but I guess the Chosen just have a high natural defense. None of Advent's attacks have landed. But here, it turns out the healing ability won't work on the Assassin, and it's only at this moment that I realise the Chosen are considered robotic units. That's why the Warlock's ability won't heal them. So, pretty much a useless ability for our purposes. And the robotic units thing has a few consequences gameplay-wise. First, it makes them immune to any mental effects, and I'm assuming shadowbound from specters as well. But it's weird because it doesn't make them immune to things like burning, so I'm kinda confused, not really sure how the mod is working. But secondly, their will never goes down, and I thought managing will would be the hardest part about this run. I figured there would be times when we would have to deploy 2 or even 1 chosen on a mission because of will loss, but no, we can run all 3 all the time, barring injuries of course. So this run just got much easier. And thirdly, and finally, the chosen can't go out on covert ops. So just like the Spark run, we're going to be dealing with all 3 chosen on the final mission. And also like the Spark run, we want to complete the campaign quickly or we're going to be dealing with multiple base defense missions. Now the other interesting thing on this mission is what happens when I try to use the assassin to grab the vial. Yeah, I thought this one would be fun, so that's why we're doing it. Use the Warlock to kill the Warlock, yeah. Okay, bros. We found a problem. We found a problem with the mod. Planting X4, etc., picking up the black site vial, appears to crash the game. Or freeze the game, at least. Yeah, that's not going to work, so time for a reload. I figured there would be some glitches along the way, this one's no big deal. So before I redeploy on the black site, I dismiss our current Warlock and I build another one for 1 supply. This way we can give him regeneration at corporal rank rather than the useless healing ability. I also take cannon fodder on the black site with us, and I'll bring a rookie on any mission that requires these kinds of actions, picking up a vial, grabbing a body, planting explosives, that kind of thing. We just can't trust that the chosen will be able to do it themselves. So round 2, let's go. The general strategy is to annihilate the pod in front of us and then place the assassin back into concealment to scout ahead to the next one. And if we can't kill everything in one turn, the Warlock is really good at disabling enemies with stasis and mind control. And every enemy we've encountered so far, the mind control has been a 100% chance to succeed. I'm not sure if that will continue through the whole game, but right now it's proving really helpful. And speaking of the Warlock, the enemy Warlock is our first chosen. He's immune to melee and he regenerates lost HP. His weaknesses are brittle and skirmishes. Obviously we're not going to be using skirmishes, but immunity to melee and brittle is always an annoying combination to have. But I'm honestly not too worried about it. I think we're going to be able to destroy him regardless. See, his psionic attacks can't affect us, so he's pretty much useless. Now another good strat is to send a mind-controlled unit in to activate the pod first. This then allows you chosen to easily capitalize based on where the advent units have moved to. And even if you can't destroy the pod in one turn, the enemies will usually attack the mind-controlled unit, especially if you deliberately leave them flanked. And this one in particular I really liked. We blow up 2 advent soldiers by taking down the Warlock zombie. I wish our Warlock could summon zombies, but oh well. Also worth noting, our mind control only lasts about 5 turns, it's not indefinite. Now when we do encounter the enemy Warlock, we're able to flank him and, well, rapid fire does the rest, not much to say there. So this time cannon fodder grabs the vial and the game thankfully doesn't break. Now let's book it out of here. The Hunter has reached Sergeant level now and he can either have regeneration or return fire. Given that return fire is a horrible ability, I go for regeneration. Then we soon level up again. The Assassin can either have abduction, which allows us to abduct advent soldiers to gain intel, or she can get regeneration. Abduction is a super cool ability, I love it, but regeneration is more useful, so we're gonna go with that. The Hunter can have target definition or face-off. I choose face-off. Then it's time for another round of Guerrilla Ops, and I move to stop the Lost World Dark event. Not because it's a dangerous dark event, which it isn't, but just because it's an annoying one. Having the Lost show up all the time will significantly extend the length of the missions. I don't want to do that. Let's shut this one down. And ironically, the Lost are present on this mission, so it's kinda like we have to stop them here to prevent them from multiplying and taking over later. I feel like this could be a story for a Chris Pratt movie. Now the objective here is to plant some X4, so I've brought along a rookie. Cannon Fodder's will was still low from the black site, so I couldn't take him. But anyway, we're able to stay concealed all the way to the device while Advent and the Lost fight it out amongst themselves. Now this seems like a good thing, but once we plant the X4, reinforcements get called in, and the Hunter warps in at the same time. And not our Hunter either, the one who wants to end us. His strengths are Watchful and Shadow Step, his weakness is Bewildered, which is actually pretty bad for us. We're using a small squad, and we're not going to be able to capitalise on having a large number of attacks that Bewildered relies on. So given how overwhelmed by enemies we are, I decide to take down a few Lost, and then we're going to evac out the rookie. He's done his part of planting the X4, so he can head home. With the Chosen, I actually decide to fall back. I'm hoping Advent will focus on the Lost over us, and thankfully, that's exactly what they do. Now the Hunter does target our Hunter, but thankfully he misses. On the next turn, we show him how a real Hunter does things, and we rapid fire him into oblivion. And the rest of the enemies don't pose as much problem. Another victory in the bag here. Time for another level up. The Warlock can choose between a mobility boost and Ever Vigilant. Now the Warlock seems to be the slowest of the three chosen, so I'm glad the mobility boost was up against a not so good ability. Hopefully now he'll be able to keep up. And then the Assassin has the hardest choice to date. We need to choose between Rupture and Bladestorm. Both are amazing abilities. Now to the dismay of Twitch chat, I opt for Rupture. I'm just thinking about enemies like Sectopods later on. Using Rupture plus Rapid Fire from the Hunter could be a really powerful combo for those high HP bad guys. Now I do plan on picking up both Bladestorm and Blade Master later on, and I'll talk about that in a moment, but first, the Hunter has Scanning Protocol or Haywire Protocol. Both unexpected abilities, that's for sure. I opt for Haywire. We already have the Assassin with Vanishing Wind to serve our scouting needs, so we don't really need Scanning Protocol. And now's a good time to look at our Avenger facilities. This is a bizarre playthrough because a lot of the facilities that we would normally use in this run are totally useless to us. Resistance Ring, GTS, Scilab, they all do nothing to help our Chosen. And because our Chosen are robotic units, I don't even think the Infirmary will give them any benefits with healing either. So instead I've got the Proving Grounds, the Training Center, a regular lab, and the Shadow Chamber. I realised too late that I should have gone for a Resistance Comms before the lab, but it's not a big deal, not the end of the world. And the Training Center is the interesting facility here. If our Chosen are treated like robotic units, they won't be able to learn any extra abilities, right? So what's the point of the Training Center? Well, they actually can learn extra abilities. See, I use the mod New Promotion Screen by default, at least that's what I think it's called. I mainly just use it for convenience, but it is required for some modded classes, and I do plan on doing modded solo runs eventually. But anyway, this mod apparently has a weird unintended consequence where your Sparks can actually learn extra abilities using AP once you've built the training center. Now Sparks don't earn AP, but they can still use it from the community pool. Now I don't ever use this functionality, seeing as Sparks aren't meant to learn new skills, and I like to keep these runs relatively close to the vanilla game. But our Chosen, well, they're not Sparks. They're Chosen, and so sticking to the vanilla game isn't an issue here since these guys aren't even usable in the vanilla game. So I intend to use this exploit and make our Chosen as powerful as possible, particularly by giving the Assassin some of those abilities that we skipped. Now this sounds great on paper, but just like with Sparks, Chosen don't gain any individual AP. The only AP they do earn is from things like defeating the Chosen, the other Chosen, not our ones, scoring a flanking kill, the usual stuff that adds AP to the community pool. So while we can theoretically give our chosen as many skills as we want, in practical terms we'll be limited by the small amount of AP that we have access to. Anyway, sorry for going on a bit of a rant there. Hopefully that makes sense. The long story short is that we will be able to give some extra abilities to our chosen. So let's get back to the battlefield. And up next is the UFO defense mission. And I love the idea of the chosen telling the puny humans to stay inside the ship and that they'll take care of things outside. It's wholesome content that I love to see. And you know what else I love to see? This animation. I'm going to have nightmares forever thanks to this. What the heck? The mission itself is pretty straightforward. We use the hunter, the warlock, and this Snecky that we mind controlled to hold the bad guys at bay. Meanwhile, the assassin sneaks up on the disruptor. Once we have a view on it, the hunter can use squad sight to destroy it, and I didn't mention it until now, something else that I forgot, but I actually bonded the hunter and the assassin really early into the run. So the assassin can give an action to the hunter, allowing him to shoot again in the same turn and wipe out the disruptor just like that. We then begin hauling it back to the Avenger, although that does leave the question of who is the warlock going to bond with? He's kind of a third wheel. Now on the next turn, I'm pretty sure we're going to lose control of this Viper, but finishing it here will slow down our retreat, so instead I just run her into the most distant corner of the map. She shouldn't bother us from here. And while all this is going down, Bradford keeps sending rookies out onto the battlefield. They do nothing but hunker down and cower in fear on the Avenger launch bay. Another promotion, and this time the Warlock can choose between Soul Steal and Guardian. I go with Soul Steal since I haven't found myself overwatching with the Warlock all that often. Between Mind Control and Stasis, he normally has more effective options that we can use. Then we get hit with the Alien Cypher Dark event, which doubles all our intel costs. Now we're in the process of expanding to regions containing the Forge and Psionic Gate missions, so this is really annoying. We then have a UFO raid and get 2 pod activations on the same turn. This could be a bit of a problem, and there's Vipers too, so I spread our troops out in order to avoid getting poisoned. Now the first Viper binds our mind-controlled shield bearer, who we've named Shaggy. The second Viper actually poisons the assassin. Now, I've never seen a snack use poison on a single trooper before. I've only seen them use it when they can hit 2 or more soldiers. But it's happened here, so I guess that's a thing. And I'm guessing the tongue pull attack can't be used on the Chosen, so it went with the poison as a backup. We're able to take out the Vipers on the next turn, and listen to this laugh from the Warlock as he does it. That's something alright. Also, I don't think I've shown off the Psionic Release ability yet, so here you go. If you could move and attack in one go like you can with Ionic Storm, this ability would be way better as you'd be able to use it to ambush inactive pods. But as it stands, it's kind of a meh ability. Also, the enemy Warlock does show up on this one, but he gets absolutely smoked. I'm not sorry. More promotions, which is good. The Assassin can have either Rapid Fire or Shadow Strike, both really great abilities, especially since she can enter concealment 8 times on a mission. That would mean 8 uses of Shadow Strike, but I'm still thinking about shredding capabilities. Rapid Fire will potentially shred an enemy twice. That could be really useful, so I choose that. Now the Hunter can choose between Crippling Shot, which can knock an enemy out of cover and take away all its mobility for 1 turn. It doesn't work on robots though. Or he can have Awareness, which lets him take a pistol shot at any enemies that get within
close range.
So kind of like Close Combat Specialist in Enemy Within, I guess. I go with Crippling Shot as it could be useful on high HP enemies like Berserkers that we may not be able to take down in a single turn. Then we've got a Guerrilla Op to take out an Advent General. I'm getting a bit reckless by this stage, and I activate some Faceless, the General and his Stooge, plus a heap of Lost all at the same time. Now check this out, we can use our mind control on Faceless. I don't think I've ever controlled one of these things before, so this is going to be really cool. Oh. Right, so that must be every pod on the map that we've just activated in a single turn. And if these pods seem to have weird enemy compositions, it's because the Savage sitrep is active on this one. Now, most of the aliens thankfully target either the Lost or our mind-controlled Faceless, which is also fine. This trooper does take aim at the assassin, and she totally dunks on him when he does it.
Perhaps someone of more skill should try.
So I guess we're going to have to call her the Assassin? Yeah, sorry, I'll show myself out for that one. Anyway, we take out a few of the enemies, including the General, but on the next turn, some more Faceless with a Stun Lancer activate. So I guess we hadn't activated everything on the map, but I'm guessing that we have now. So by this time, this Lost and Berserker have been in a fist fight with each other for 3 turns in a row, and this Lost has a measly 2 HP. Can you imagine a Berserker being this ineffective against our soldiers? I bet that would never happen. Whatever, nothing we can do, and it's actually our Faceless who finally ends up finishing this lone Lost zombie. So now let's clean up the rest of the bad guys and get out of here. I then decide to hit the Forge mission. I end up activating 2 turrets, a captain, and a shield bearer all at once. Yeah, I'm still playing pretty recklessly. Our Warlock does end up taking some damage from the captain, but we then mind control him as payback. And when we do, he seems to be in line of sight of the sector pod, but it doesn't activate for some reason. I'm really not sure why, but we're going to roll with it. It works for us. Then on the next turn, the sector pod does activate, but our captain is not afraid. He'll run in there and happily stand face to face with this giant death machine. And I'm basically putting him there as bait in case we can't finish this thing in one turn. Hopefully it'll target the captain and not our chosen. However, rapid fire with the assassin comes in really handy, and it turns out we can take it down in one turn. The enemy hunter then hits our captain with tracking shot and finishes him off. I think this was the first time in my life I've actually seen tracking shot connect. Now the hunter is hiding inside the forge facility. He was out the front of the building earlier, but he ran back inside when he got a glimpse of us. This man seems to be afraid of us. And he should be, because our rapid fire is no longer on cooldown, so farewell for now, Mr. Hunter. I did bring cannon fodder on this one to carry the corpse thing for us. He complains about being treated like a mule.
Do I look like a mule?
Honestly, I can't say I blame him. I make sure to take out the reinforcements that come in just so we can get some more XP, and I actually hang around to farm a second lot of reinforcements. I had no idea more than one lot came, but apparently they do. So after this one, the Warlock has another promotion, and we can choose between Blast Padding and Null Lance. So one of the game's worst abilities versus one of the best. Yeah, I think we're going to go with Null Lance. Then we have a retaliation mission. We've mind-controlled a Muton, and there's a Berserker that I'm not sure we're going to be able to take out this turn, so this is a great opportunity to try out Crippling Shot. We can disable this thing so it won't be able to move, and because it's a melee-only unit, it's not going to be able to attack us. Okay, never mind. Looks like Crippling Shot totally sucks and doesn't do anything. Why could this Berserker still move? Does its movement only get disabled for our turn? Does that what it mean by movement disabled for one turn? But that would be totally pointless. I don't know, whatever. I should have taken the
close range
ability instead. Too late now though. Now the assassin also shows up here. Her strengths are General, Brute, and Soul Stealer. Her weakness is Groundling, but honestly, none of that cares because we have Rapid Fire. See you later, assassin. Now both Faceless spawn right on top of the Hunter, and he does find himself in a bit of a precarious position. Luckily Faceless have pretty terrible aim, so he takes minimal damage. Now this mission allows the assassin to reach Colonel level. We can choose between Juggernaut, which increases her maximum health for the mission every time she uses her katana, or we can take Reaper. Now both abilities seem pretty good, but I go with Reaper. Offense is generally better than defense in this game. I also take this opportunity to give her Blade Master and Blade Storm, so she should be pretty powerful now. And soon the Hunter reaches Colonel as well. He can either have Lethal Dose, which inflicts poison that does 3 to 5 damage every turn until the enemy drops, or Rupture. I go with Rupture. So we need to skulljack a codex to continue the story research. I have a great idea for this next mission. I mind control the codex so that we can skulljack it safely whenever we want. Only one problem with my master plan: it turns out you cannot skulljack mind-controlled enemies. I don't think I knew that. I mean, in retrospect it makes sense, we've separated them from the Advent network to take control of them ourselves. But it's still annoying. Now I could wait for the mind control to end and then skulljack, but the mission timer will have expired by then, so we'll just have to wait for another opportunity. I was really annoyed by this too. I thought I had come up with a cool strategy, but not to be, not a big deal. Next up is the Psionic Gate. There's no codexes on this mission unfortunately, but between the Assassin and the Chrysalids there are a lot of hidden enemies that we're going to have to deal with. So we mind control the Shield Bearer and send him out first to trigger any lurking Chrysalids. Seems like a good idea in theory, except for the fact that he gets ripped apart and turned into a cocoon in a matter of moments. So with him out of the picture, I can use the Warlock as bait as he can't get poisoned, but obviously he will still take some damage. Now the Assassin does have Blade Storm, so we could use her, but she's not guaranteed to hit, and even when she does hit, she's not guaranteed to one-shot. So we do end up taking quite a bit of damage on this mission. We have oodles of HP and we regenerate lost health, so it's not a big deal, but it does mean we're going to have some Chosen out with injury for a bit. Now for the Assassin, we use a pretty cool maneuver. We move our Assassin in and attack with the Katana. We then use the bond with the Hunter to give the Assassin another action. A rapid fire later takes the enemy Assassin down. Then the Gatekeeper appears, and check this out. Our chance to mind control it is 100%, so we could just do that and finish the mission. But where's the fun in that? We blow this thing up instead, and then we head home. And the Warlock is finally a Colonel too. Now he can either have Teleport or Soul Chain. Soul Chain allows you to chain yourself to another enemy, and whenever the Warlock takes damage, that enemy takes damage too. Now seeing as we want to avoid taking damage as much as possible, this seems like a fairly horrible ability. Teleport, on the other hand, should be awesome. And now that everyone's at Colonel, I go and spend the rest of our AP. I give the Hunter the Lethal Dose ability, hopefully it's better than Crippling Shot, and I give the Assassin both Juggernaut and Shadow Strike, and with all those abilities, we're pretty much out of AP. We have another Council mission, and this is our chance to skulljack the Avatar. So do your thing, Cannon Fodder, this is your time to shine. And you might see the footage stutter a bit here. That's not the video, that's the game. For some reason, spawning in this Avatar killed my frame rate. It's never done that before, so I'm not really sure what's going on, but regardless, we can take out the Avatar pretty easily, and when it's gone, my game stops stuttering again. Really bizarre. Kinda worried what the final mission might be like now. And speaking of the final mission, we could do it right now if we wanted to, but I figure you good people would probably like to see how the Chosen stack up against the alien rulers, right? Yeah, let's find out.
Never break, always fight, never quit, do it right, play the game, win it life, have no shame, there's no time, feel the pain, live the grind, I could change, in my mind, pick a lane, commit and climb, the only way to win it life, I never miss, that's fact, taking big swings, put your hand to the bat, put me in the ring, you'll go out in a bag, cause I sing what I mean and I bring it to the mad light, ain't got time to kill, I got time to feel, I took the red pill, I know life's short so I wanna live real, but how's it supposed to feel? How's it supposed to feel? wanna say they hate, but they know it's cap. I ain't play no games, I just do that's fact. And I don't feel no shame, it's a mood you lack. I go crazy, nah, but I ain't lazy. Track after track, I work on this shit daily. Pass me the jack, right as fuel, got me hazy. About to unpack all these things I've been chasing. I've got visions in my head, like memories after death. To be a legend instead of something you can forget. I'm living up every breath, I'd rather lead than be led. I'll fill the seats as I spread, with every word that I've said.
How's it supposed to feel? How's it supposed to feel?
Uh-oh. Yeah, I guess we're out of time. I don't want the Warlock to attack the Avenger, so we're just going to have to wrap this campaign up. Also, I should mention that I build the Infirmary during this time, and it actually does reduce the recovery times of the Chosen. So I guess that means they're not robotic units? I have no idea what they are, to be honest. But anyway, the problem with finishing the campaign now is that the Queen will get to survive after all. I was a bit disappointed that she got away, but I guess she's just scared of us. So we head off to the network tower, and one of the intel bonuses was giving the whole team squad sight. I have no idea what is happening here, but yes, we certainly have squad sight. The game has made that much abundantly clear. So we push on, and this happens. Oh, there's something else out there. Alright, so this seems like Bros, what? Bros! What? What?
Looks like one of them came back.
What the hell?
Make sure to take it out.
What the hell? What? Oh no! She heard me talking all that smack about her. Oh no! Well, this complicates matters significantly. What the heck? What? No way! No way! Yeah, I had no idea it was even possible for rulers to show up on this mission. But be that as it may, this is the situation we find ourselves in, and we're going to have to deal with it. Now, my absolute worst fear is that one of our Chosen gets taken out on this mission. We won't have time to rebuild them, so we'll be hitting the final assault with only 2 soldiers. I mean, only having 3 is bad enough, but 2 would be much worse. So let's see how we go. The first thing I do is use stasis to shut her down for this turn. We then focus on dealing with the lesser enemies. The Muton is easy, we can mind control him. I then try for a Harbour Wave with the Assassin, but it actually doesn't hit adjacent enemies. You need to have at least 1 tile between you and them, so I've messed this up pretty much straight away. So instead, I hit with the Katana, and then I use the Hunter's Bond to give our Assassin another turn. My plan was to activate Reaper so we could finish off both Archons, but I forgot to hit the Reaper button, so I've messed up again. Yeah, the Queen being here has really rattled me. I'm not playing at my best right now. However, the Archon actually dodged the attack, so we didn't finish it anyway, so even if I had activated Reaper, it wouldn't have helped. So that actually turned out to be a good thing. And I probably should have mentioned that earlier. The Assassin isn't as accurate with her katana as our soldiers are in the regular game. She does tend to miss, especially with Bladestorm. The surviving Archon goes for Blazing Pinions, which is fine. And check this out. The Muton only has one action. Tactical Analysis has still affected this thing even though it's on our side now. It's still the Muton's first turn since we activated the pod, so Tactical Analysis is still being applied. That's an interesting mechanic that I wasn't aware of. We grapple with the Hunter, which is a free action, so no reaction from the Queen, plus it gives us a height bonus. We use Rapid Fire, which causes the Queen to charge right into a Blade Storm from the Assassin. That's exactly what I wanted her to do. I then follow up with another strike from the Katana. I could have used the shotgun here as it would have been a guaranteed one-shot, which the Katana is not, but doing a melee attack means we'll get a movement action and can avoid the Blazing Pinions. So it was a risk, but it paid off, and we've taken the Queen out while taking no damage ourselves. I honestly didn't think that was even possible, but we somehow pulled it off. Awesome. The Archon is thankfully distracted by the Muton, but then another Archon with an Andromedon show up. And even worse, Stasis is still on cooldown. There's no way that we can shut down that Andromedon this turn. So I figure there's only one thing to do in a situation like this. We run away. And between teleportation, the grappling hook, and our high mobility, we can run away really far. And we leave the Muton to do its best Mimic Beacon impersonation, and he actually survives. I was honestly kind of hoping the enemies would take him out, as our mind control isn't going to last much longer, but he's here, we'll make the most of him. Now thankfully Stasis is back, so we can shut down the Andromedon and do our best to eliminate the Archons. We're only able to finish one of them off. I was hoping the Assassin would Blade Storm the second one into oblivion, but she misses. Of course the Archon doesn't miss, but it's minimal damage, so we should be okay. On the next turn, we get the Andromedon to second form, and then something awesome happens. The Muton connects with his melee attack and shuts down the Andromedon shell for the next turn. This allows us to easily finish the Archon and the Muton, since the mind control would wear off the next turn. Then we have a whole other turn to deal with the Andromedon. This Muton was actually a real MVP here. I mean, that's not going to stop us from blowing him away, but I do appreciate his work. And once we've survived that ordeal, the rest of the mission is pretty straightforward. There is a pod of Archons guarding the hacking station, but I mostly ignore them and just go for the hack. We do succeed, but that mission was certainly much more difficult than I expected, and the final mission is going to be way worse. Now we're not using the Commander's avatar on this one, so it's up to our 3 Chosen to get us through the final battle. My plan is to use Vanishing Wind with the Assassin to scout ahead so we don't get any bad pod activations. However, I move the Warlock too far forward on the first turn, and we immediately get a bad pod activation against all these Mutons. What can I say? Sometimes things just don't go to plan. I decide to fall back out of line of sight. This will force the Mutons to move up, and they won't be able to attack since we've got Tactical Analysis. On the next turn, the Mutons have stumbled into our trap, and we lay waste to them. I use Harbour Wave with the Assassin. That does mean we've blown our concealment, but we still have another 7 charges of Vanishing Wind left, so I'm not really worried about that. We then activate Vanishing Wind again, and we use Concealment plus Long Watch to activate a pod of mechs on their turn. Null Lance does immense damage, and we rip through these things really easily. But after that is when the real fun begins. We run into a pod of 2 Andromedons and a Gatekeeper at the same time as the enemy Assassin spawns in. We didn't hit any Chosen bases since we couldn't do Covert Ops, so all 3 enemy Chosen are going to appear on this one. And I actually can't think of a better way to end this run, to be honest. The Chosen facing off against the Chosen. So we can shut down one Andromedon with Stasis, and then we mind control the Gatekeeper. We finish off the other Andromedon, and now we get to send our Gatekeeper into battle. Well, it misses and does nothing, so that was kind of anticlimactic. We're only able to get the Andromedon to second form, but the Hunter can shut it down with Haywire Protocol. Now, interestingly, his Gremlin does upgrade as we unlock better versions. It's the only weapon our Chosen have that we've been able to upgrade. Our Gatekeeper then stumbles into the enemy assassin, revealing her. We are able to take her out in one turn, but it means leaving the Andromedon shell alive. Well, not alive, but you know what I mean. It lands a punch on the assassin, but that's not a big deal. All our chosen regenerate lost health, so after enough turns, she'll get all that HP back. I push forward with the Gatekeeper very quickly. I'm wanting it to absorb some enemy fire for us before we lose the mind control. So we come across this pod of Andromedons and Mutons, and we get to use the Gatekeeper's AoE attack to inflict massive damage. However, we're not going to be able to take out the pod this turn, so I make sure to position the Chosen out of line of sight. This way the Gatekeeper is the only target the bad guys will have, again thanks to tactical analysis. And our Gatekeeper takes big damage, and that's actually what I want. Now it does survive, even if only on a meager 2 HP, and I end up taking it out with a Harbour Wave as I didn't want to have to worry about losing the mind control. So this pod has been pretty much wiped from the face of the earth, but we do keep one Andromedon alive and we actually mind control that next. We then repeat the strategy of pushing forward with the mind controlled unit to absorb enemy fire, but before too long we also have to put the Andromedon out of its misery. Then we push on and things get really crazy. We have a sector pod, 2 Andromedons, 2 Mutons, and the Hunter. Now I use stasis to shut down the sector pod and mind control to take over another Andromedon. So that's 2 enemies down right off the bat. I use our Hunter to weaken the other Andromedon and then send the Assassin in with Reaper. She's able to take it to second form, which is really good, and I consider trying more Katana attacks on the Mutons, but I decide their counter-attack ability is too dangerous, so I just shoot the far one instead. Now the closer one, I was hoping that it would move in for a melee attack on its turn, and that's exactly what it does. We Bladestorm it, both Mutons are gone, that's really good. The Andromedon shell misses with its punch, and the enemy Hunter wastes a stun grenade on our Andromedon, which seems to be immune. On our next turn, I then focus all our firepower on the sector pod, and the combined might of the Andromedon, the Assassin, and the Hunter are able to take it down. On the next turn, the shell just gets Bladestormed to death, which is what I was hoping would happen. The enemy Hunter does shoot at the Warlock, and he does a whopping 9 damage. And what's even worse than that, the Hunter is also now summoned in Stun Lancers. And he's gone on Overwatch. This is just great. I take a 93% shot with the Assassin, and we miss. Really annoying. I could have used a melee attack for a 100% chance to hit, but I wanted to get the shred damage with the shotgun. Now I also wanted to remove the Overwatch from the Hunter, but that's not to be. It's not a big deal, it just means that our Andromedon has to run the Overwatch gauntlet. It gets hit and is actually bleeding now. But the price is more than worth paying, because having the Overwatch gone frees up the Warlock to be able to move. And you see, the Stun Lancers have very foolishly situated themselves in a straight line. So yeah, it's Null Lance time for them. We then use Rapid Fire with our Hunter, and one of our 92% shots miss. Yeah, that's a 93% and a 92% both missing in the very same turn. This game is excruciating sometimes. So because of these missed shots, the Hunter gets to attack us again. He fires at the Andromedon and combined with the bleed damage actually finishes it off. So now it's in its second form and no longer under our control. This was really annoying. We easily eliminate the enemy Hunter on the next turn, and the shell is too far away from us to be able to attack us on its turn. We can then easily put it down, and now we're on to the final chamber. And it seems the Assassin doesn't get to keep the extra HP that she earned from Juggernaut, so that kinda sucks. Meanwhile, the Warlock and Hunter are both at reduced HP. I decide to just stand around for as many turns as it takes for their HP to regen fully, and once that's done, now we can go and get the bad guys. The Assassin kicks things off with a rapid fire and does massive damage on the Avatar. The Hunter is then able to finish it off with a 96% shot, and after that last turn, I was honestly worried about missing here. This game is messing with my mind. I want to mind control one of the Archons, but I stupidly move the Warlock to a spot where he doesn't have line of sight. This was a really bad play. We need an alien meat shield to take the heat off of our Chosen. And the assassin does end up taking some damage on the next turn. Then the enemy Warlock spawns in. He's honestly the best to have in this final chamber. His psionic attacks can't do very much to us, and it's unlikely we're going to be able to finish him off. Being stuck in here with the assassin or the hunter, who would do much more damage to us, would be much worse. So I decide we're going to fall back, and again I try to mind control one of the Archons, but again I can't because I've moved the Warlock into a spot where he has no line of sight. I'm really messing this up. But despite that, the second avatar is here now, so we need to make that the priority. I go for an 82% shot with the assassin, but we miss. Now fortunately, the hunter can give her another action thanks to their bond, and the second attempt connects. We then use rapid fire with the hunter, but only one shot lands, so the avatar survives. However, a null lance from the warlock can then put avatar number 2 away. We're almost at the end here. Then we get some really bad reinforcements, 3 priests. If these things hit us with stasis and we can't get rid of the next avatar in one turn, that could be terrible. At the same time, the assassin is getting absolutely swarmed with enemies, and I am afraid that we might lose her. This is why not mind controlling one of the Archons was such a huge blunder. There's no one to distract the enemies and take the heat off of our troops. And with only 3 soldiers to use, there's no way we're going to be able to take out all the reinforcements more quickly than they're flooding in. So I fall back to the far corner of the map. I'm mostly just trying to stay out of line of sight of the priests, and I'm actually able to activate Vanishing Wind to keep the assassin even more hidden, which is really good. She doesn't have a tremendous amount of health left. I'm also able to finally mind control a Muton, but it doesn't seem to do much, to be honest. The aliens mostly ignore it and instead focus fire on the Warlock himself. I never expected the AI to be that smart. Now thankfully, there's no stasis from any of the priests, we were far enough away from them. And now the final avatar is here, let's do it. We hit a rupture and then follow it up with a shot from the hunter. Our Muton runs the Overwatch gauntlet and thankfully survives to get line of sight on the avatar. Now that we have line of sight, I can then teleport the Warlock right on top of this thing. Now our chance to hit is 99%. So surely we'll hit, right? You know what? I'm not risking losing this campaign because we missed a 99% shot. No. I'm gonna go for the guaranteed damage with Soulfire instead, and this one is over. The Elder's greatest champion has just won us the campaign. That's pretty ironic. So yes, you can indeed beat XCOM 2 War of the Chosen as the Chosen. And I have to say, this was a really fun campaign. And those last 2 missions proved way more difficult than anything that came before. We had to face off against 7 boss enemies in the final 2 battles. That was insane. And I honestly wasn't sure we were going to be able to pull it off at the end there, but we persevered, we won the day, this one's done. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider doing the usual things of leaving a like, a comment, and subscribing to the channel. I'll be back with another one soon. Until then, thanks for watching and have a great day.
Never break, always fight, never quit, do it right, play the game, win it life, have no shame, there's no time, feel the pain, live the grind, I could change, in my mind, pick a lane, commit and climb, the only way to win it life, I never miss that stack, taking big swings, put your hand to the bat, put me in the ring, you'll go out in a bag, cause I sing what I mean.